One of the highlights of this year's Melbourne International Film Festival, and releasing after that, is a documentary called I'm Wanita, about Wanita Bahtiyar, a country music singer. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the director of I'm Wanita, Matthew Walker. Matthew, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here.
Great. Now, I gather this feature documentary had its origins in a short film that you made, Heart of the Queen.
That's correct. Yep. We went up to, I got kind of just randomly invited to go and make a short film, a short documentary. There was really no brief about it or anything, with a country singer that I'd never heard of called Wanita. And we just cruised up to Tamworth during the festival in Tamworth Country Music Festival in January 2014, and embedded ourselves with her for 4 days, and we're introduced to the wonderful parallel world of Wanita.
She certainly is quite an incredible person. And so tell me about the process between then and now in turning this into a feature documentary.
Yeah. So I filmed for 4 days. We had a whole heap of rushes. I went up there with Natalie Van Den Dungen and Matt Gavoni. And then I had a whole heap of rushes. I didn't know kind of what, I knew there was something very interesting there. And I edited for a long time in my bedroom amidst, with my son, Jezza, in the room next door, and kind of working as an editor in the daytime. Anyway, and eventually, oh God, how much detail should I go into? Billy Marshall Stone King looked at it just when I was about to lock off, and he said, "You're only halfway there." He's a quite well-known guy in the film industry, a kind of story mentor. And then I took it to Nikki Stevens, who turned it around very quickly into the finished film. And then that film I kind of put into festivals for a long time. That right at the end of its festival run, like 2 years later, Margaret McHugh programmed it for Antenna, and it only got into a few festivals in Australia, and then it won Best Australian Short at Antenna. I had this lovely slot, and after that, someone came up to me and said, "That feels like it's just this introduction to a world. You should turn that into a feature." I hadn't really considered it before that point. You should go to Screen Australia, and after some consideration, Michaela Persky came on as producer, and we went to Screen Australia, and Alyssa Orbis was nice enough to give us development money, and it kind of kicked on from there. So that was 2016, I think, and we finished it in lockdown last year, editing and sound and everything.
What a journey!
What a journey! Yeah. So we filmed until 2019, the start of 2019, or the end of 2000. Oh God, it's all a mess. We edited for almost a year.
Yeah.
Nikki Stevens, myself, and then Peter O'Donoghue came in and pulled it all beautifully together. And then we did an ABC TV version. Jonathan Dower did wonderful music. Luke Minot did a fantastic job on the mix. That's a very, yeah.
Well, as I've said, it's quite a journey. And now it's going to be screening at the Melbourne International Film Festival, which is a great kudos for you.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. We didn't know whether I didn't know whether I had a film for a long time. And even when we'd finished it, we really liked it. But it wasn't until Marosha at Hot Docs selected it for Hot Docs, and then we just suddenly went, whoa, okay, it's working, and now Myth have taken it on, and it's amazing.
And even more amazing is that you've been shortlisted for the ACTA Best Documentary Awards.
Yeah, that just happened a couple of days ago.
That's right.
It's wild. Yeah, we're stoked. Yeah, we're very, grateful that everyone has enjoyed the film, and it speaks to people.
It does. So tell me more about filming Wanita and how much permission she gave you in terms of what you were able to film, how revealing she was about her quite incredible background and so on. Because I can imagine there might have been some boundaries and some areas of no-go areas amongst the filming.
I wouldn't say that. No, I didn't see any boundaries. I think once we did the Heart of the Queen. She loved Heart of the Queen, the short film, and so when the feature started up again, she kind of went, "Yep, let's do it." I was saying yes. A lot of people show up at a house wanting different things, money or cigarettes or petrol or food or something, and I just showed up at her house, wanting to make a feature documentary, and so she, brought me in and gave me that as well. But she, I think she very early on, she decided, she kind of sized up the situation, and she actually spoke to Ellie Mae. Ellie Mae told me about it, her daughter, and said, I'm just gonna, like, as she puts it, put her intestines on the tarmac and let the jet engine start up. And she's really into just sharing everything, being open about her life and everything she's done. And so she really never ever once said, I can't talk about that. She actually, it's quite the opposite. In fact, it's like, stop beating around the bush and let's get to the heart of this thing, not necessarily, I mean, she'll kind of play some games and whatnot a little bit, we'll kind of go around things a little bit. But no, she never once told us to change anything in the edit. It was only Baba made the only note on Heart of the Queen, actually, where Wanita said that Australia was soft cock, and Baba said, you can't say that about Australia. And so we just took out that one line. That was the only thing.
The expurgated version.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. She is so frank and so open about her experience, her honky tonk singing and her autism and so on, and her cultural background and so on. It's interesting how much she does reveal and how open she is about talking about that.
Yeah. I think, Wanita has a real version of her life that she has kind of constructed a real strong narrative, like a mythology almost. She goes to the same moments throughout her life the whole time. And so it's kind of like the documentary eventually was, it was about getting to her truth, I think, a lot more than like getting to the truth, and then also seeing how her truth impacted on the people around her, and then trying to get that balance right, and treating all the characters kind of with respect for what they were going through, and try and get all their stories in there to a small degree, obviously. Yeah.
Sure. Matthew, in shooting this documentary over a number of years, were you solely responsible, or did you have a small crew? How did it work in terms of when you filmed and so on?
Initially, Natalie Van Den Dungen helped a lot early on with filming. She would come to Tamworth with me, and a lot of the great comedy, for some reason, in the film is all her shooting. She's manages to draw comedy out of situations very effectively. And so, various people kind of just helped me out early on, particularly with filming. I did some of the filming myself. I gradually kind of worked out how to use a camera a bit, well enough to make it into the fight. And there's just scenes from all those times which are scattered through the film. And then, once we got some funding, there was people like Simon Kunick came up and filmed brilliantly for a few days, right in the really dramatic period leading up to going to Nashville. And then Catherine Millis. We had Kingsley Haxton also, who was another big part of it, who came up in the early days of funding, and he did a lot of those brilliant billboard shots, actually, which are in the film. Everybody seemed to have different little areas that of expertise. Kingsley was going to come with us to America. He wasn't able to at the last minute, and Catherine Millis popped up out of nowhere, and she was absolutely fantastic. She came with us to America and was very professional, which was what we needed, and disciplined, and she filmed all the stuff in America. Then, do you want me to keep going through the edit? Through the edit, eventually, there was other people as well. Brian Moses filmed, and I'm sure there was other people as well who I'm forgetting. But in the edit, initially I worked with, I was in Newcastle. I ended up, and Nikki was the first editor, and Nikki Stevens, we edited remotely for 3 months, maybe 4 months. And then we were still a long way off getting anywhere. Then I housed up in my sister's house, Joan's house, in her daughter's bedroom, she'd moved out. So there was this bedroom free. I edited there for 3 months, and then thank God Peter Donahue came on and turned it all around and just rescued it. And it was like going into hospital or something. And he sat me down, and maybe the GP, and he kind of sat me down and said, okay, what's going on here? And I'd tell him all my problems. You go, right, okay, and take away what I said and go over to his desk. And gradually we kind of pulled it together in those last 3 months or 4 months with Pete, and that was just wonderful. And then lockdown happened, and I did all the, I turned off all social media and everything. I worked with Jonathan Dower on the music, which is just, I just love the music. He just did such a fantastic job. And we're going to put the soundtrack up on Spotify, actually. And then, and that was all just done by email. And then Luke Minot did a fantastic job on the sound. Yeah.
Well, it's all come together really well. So congratulations on that long process. And
yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's through that whole period, Carolina and Claire and Tate were, telling me, just running the ship completely and telling me what had to happen now. Carolina would ring up and kind of chat just every morning, 9 o'clock, we'd chat for half an hour just about whatever. And that was just hugely important to the whole process. And they didn't stress or panic, even though the edit went kind of 100 times over schedule. So, yeah.
And I can imagine, because you would have shot so much material in Tamworth, in Nashville, etc., as well as talking with Wanita and so on, that editing is always a difficult process to try and get it right in terms of the storytelling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I didn't have a plan, as Nikki Stevens will testify. There was no plan. It was just kind of. I just looked through I spent 2 or 3 months going through the rushes, hundreds of hours of rushes, and just actually typing up what I had. And I ended up with this. I think I said it was 40,000 words in some other interview I just did, but I actually looked at it the other day, and it was actually 140,000 words. Ooh. And so we had this document where we could just type in, banana, and Wanita picks up a banana in April 2017 and says, "I love bananas," and whatever. And so we had that all. It became the Bible. But I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of sat with it, just sat with it the whole time, and then eventually people would start saying it's getting close, and then the birth and the composer and everyone come in and mop up and everyone's screaming.
And here you are. And you mentioned Tate because it's label distribution. I think that's going to be rolling out the film after the Melbourne Film Festival.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Tate came on early on. We're very, very lucky for Tate to to come on board. I can't even remember him actually deciding to come on board. Claire and Carolina were looking around it for, you know, the third producer and the distributor, and they approached quite a few people, and then they approached Tate, and from my perspective, they just started emailing back and forth a little bit, and then, you know, some notes started, he seemed to just kind of come in by osmosis. That's the way it looked to me. I'm sure there was something else going on in the background, but yeah, Tate's been wonderful, and he's going to put out in a cinema release, hopefully. It was supposed to be September, but COVID, everything's kind of going. It'll happen. Yeah. And we're gonna, I think, you know, we're looking at really cool kind of regional cinemas and whatnot, stuff like that. Yeah, so that'd be great.
I'm quite intrigued about Wanita and her situation now. Is she in Nashville? Is she in Tamworth? What is she doing?
She's in Brisbane, actually. She's got a manager now, a new manager, a guy called Mick Privatera, and she's rehearsing with her new band. I spoke to her just a couple of days ago. She's given up alcohol, and she's rehearsing her, I won't use the word, but it was it refers to the genitals of the refers to genitals, and it's not a nice word. out. And so, and she's in a really good place. So currently, you know, it's always up and down, but she's really having a crack at the moment. And the album just came out finally in July, and you know, she's got some film clips up on YouTube and Facebook, and the album's getting really good kind of response from everyone. It's up on Spotify. Is it on Spotify? It's on Bandcamp, and it's coming out through Cheer Squad Records, Wally Meany in Melbourne. So on red vinyl.
Okay, but that's excellent news for her, because I was always, as I was watching the documentary, I was always concerned what's going to happen with her, and will everything work out for her in some ways, and it looks like it is happening for her, which is fantastic news. And your documentary, of course, has played such an important part in her experience. The documentary's played an important part in everyone's experience. Yep. Yes. And
when Wanita, you know, wanted to do this documentary, and it's played out the way it has, and she's concentrating on her music at the moment.
Great, because she has such a really unique sound and a special quality to her songs and what she has to say and her music. I found it so interesting and captivating, even though I'm not a great country music fan myself.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a great country music fan myself either until Wanita kind of started throwing all this stuff at me, and I started dipping into it and driving up and back and forth to Tamworth, just listening to Merle Haggard and Tammy Wynette and George Jones and Loretta Lynn and Slim Dusty, and you know, and I gained a huge appreciation and education for it, and reading books as well through the edit. That was, you know, a really important part of it for me, because. And, you know, hearing Wanita as a child, she's got all the recordings, a few of them are in the film, you know, hearing the songs that she was singing, you know, and the lyrics she was singing as a very young teen, you know, the darkness of some of them. I'm just a bad seed daddy's son, and some of those Conway Twitty songs are pretty edgy.
Certainly are. And I like the label that she has, the Queen of Australia's Honky Tonk, which is a nice description for her.
Yeah, she's the Queen of Honky Tonk, Australia's Queen of Honky Tonk. That's who she is. So everyone just has to kind of, you know, realise that, and we'll all be happy. Yeah.
And Matthew, just to conclude, I'm quite intrigued with your background, because you've made short films, documentaries. You were involved with Julia Zamiro's Home Delivery, I read. And how do you choose and decide on the projects that you get involved with?
Someone rings you up out of the blue and you feel very kind of flattered that you've got a new friend, and you say, yeah, I'll do that. And then you find yourself in a room for three or 4 months working your ass off, and then you kind of come out the end of it and go, oh, thank God, and then it happens again. Essentially, that's my version this morning, Peter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fun.
I mean, I studied at Afters. I did drama editing at Afters in 2003-4, and you know, I got my first gig. I did a documentary, Carly Gray's documentary, My Home, Your War. That was my very first thing. That was a documentary I did at home over a long period of time, and then that led to another job, and I've just been, you know, doing factual and a little bit of drama and some feature docs after The Apology and Destination Arnold. And one thing just kind of leads to another, and years go by. I did a lot of work with Cordell Jigsaw, Go Back to Where You Came From series and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any particular, as you say, you studied at Afters, are there any particular influences in terms of your approach to documentary making or television or shorts or whatever?
Jesus Christ. That's
there's an influence.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think of seeing the 7 Up series when I was about 19 or 20, and that just blowing my mind. Grizzly Man, that was one that I really loved.
Yeah.
I don't know, slideshows with Dad when I was a kid, where everyone kind of looks at the slides and goes, whatever happened to that jumper? And, you know, focusing on different things rather than what the actual picture is, you know. I think that was really kind of fascinated me. Yeah, Slack. I used to have, me and my friend James Vidler, when in the early days of video clips, we recorded, I had 12 3-hour videos of 1980s music videos, and just used to watch them over and over and over until you got to know every little moment in Wang Chung's Dance All Days, you know, where they cut with the bass player and he does, you know, it's coming up, or Bob Marley's, you know, the father of creation, you know, we'd always wait for the guy who was dancing over the part, you know, and I think that probably led me into editing in a funny kind of way as well.
Okay. Yeah. What an interesting set of experiences. That sounds great.
Yeah, just to pluck them all out of I'd usually prepare for a question like that, Peter.
That's fine. And Matthew, yeah. I will then just ask you one last question. Are you working on other projects at the moment?
Yeah, I've joined with Claire and Carolina now in People Productions. I initially did an edit for them. There Goes Our Neighborhood, Claire's film, and that's how we met. And it was during then that I showed them the trailer for Wanita, and then kind of Carolina, once we'd finished that project, Carolina rang me up out of the blue and said, right, here's a budget. This is how we could do it. And we worked really well together, and we really enjoy working together. And so we've got a whole bunch of little things that we're cutting sizzle reels for, and trying to, you know, work up and develop Claire's. Yeah, so quite a few things in very early stages at the moment. And yeah, and right now I'm just doing a little edit for Foreign Correspondent at home.
How interesting! What a diverse range of projects you are involved with.
Yeah, and then also having to kind of set up your background for interviews like this as well, which I've failed to do this time. Usually I have some nice books, and yeah.
It's perfectly fine. Look, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Matthew. We've been speaking to Matthew Walker, who's the director of I'm Wanita, which is a screening at the Melbourne International Film Festival, and then we'll be releasing in cinemas thereafter. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your interest.
No problem at all. All the best then. See you later. Bye-bye.